The fuel line's been replaced, and I pressurized the system. It does hold pressure at this point. We tried to start it, and it started for about 5 to 7 seconds, probably longer than would normally run on starting fluid, and then it conked out, and it's struggling to start now. So I'm trying to diagnose exactly what's going on. And it's going to start with a fuel pressure check, which will be using this gauge here. The problem is, as far as I can tell on this M60, there is no Schrader valve, so I'm going to have to add one. And I just picked one up from Lowe's that I'm getting ready to install, and then I'll probably come back to this video. The other thing I did is the oil pan is all back up on the car. However, it's still leaking. I kind of forgot about the oil drain bolt. It's barely in there, it's like finger tight. So I'm hoping that's where the oil's leaking from. It's still much better than it was before, so we are making progress. I just installed a T into what I believe to be the fuel feed line. It's got a Schrader valve in it now, and then also it just goes right into the fuel pressure gauge. Get the battery hooked up and we'll check the fuel pressure. The battery's hooked up, the fuel pressure gauge is still hooked up to that driver's side location, and I have the fuel pump relay jumped with the button. So what I'm going to do is press the button right now, and we'll see if we get fuel pressure up here. Well, apparently yes, because the gauge itself is leaking pretty badly. So that was just spraying fuel everywhere, so you can see it dribbling out down there. That's fuel. I need to fix that right now. Okay, fuel leak fixed. I bumped the button there, and it's coming up on pressure, so it looks like we probably do have good fuel pressure. I'll press it down again and we'll see it come on. Looks like we're at 50 psi. That should be about right. I'll let all the gas evaporate and check the leak down. Everything looks good. It's been quite a while actually. It's holding pressure, so I'm going to try and start it. It's in run right now, and park. The engine runs at this point, sort of, but it has a very hard time starting. So I decided to change these spark plugs. I've got these new NGK spark plugs over here. They're relatively cheap. And when I pulled everything apart, what I found is basically looks like this motor was pulled out of at the bottom of the ocean. So to give you an idea of just how bad this is the first coil pack pulled out. You can see the rust on the bottom. It's all kind of crusty. And the spark plug that I pulled out is right there. So honestly, it's kind of amazing that this thing ran at all. And I wish I had it on camera, but it sounded pretty healthy. So what I'm going to do is swap all those plugs out. And I think I have enough good coils out of other engines that they appear to be the same, that I can get them in here and we should be good to go. Got the passenger side cover off for the ignition coils, and clearly someone's been in here. So these two coils here are Bosch coils, where all the other coils on this engine so far have been Bremmy. So at least 2 of these have been replaced. This one doesn't look like it's been underwater the way the driver's side did, at least so far. And the idea is I'm going to take these 6 coils I have up there from an E36. I've just got them laying around. These are all good coils. And then I need to source 2 more good coils, because the other ones I have lying around, sorry, it's probably blowing out. The boots on them don't look so great. The coils themselves are probably fine. I think all these were working before. But I want to make sure the boots are good, because if the boots are bad, then the spark will jump to the inside of the valve cover, and obviously the engine won't run correctly. So what I'm going to do is, this engine sitting over here was running perfectly fine when we pulled it. This is actually from an earlier video, the green 325i. So I'm going to pull the ignition coils out of that valve cover and source 2 from this engine, pop them all into this V8, and hopefully we know that all the ignition system should then be working properly. I also found air intake temperature sensor, intake air temperature sensor, which is right down here and installed now. Just laying in a box. I don't know if it's the correct one. It probably is, because apparently this engine, the M60, shares its temperature sensors with the M50. So just like that spare engine over there, it's got one of those sensors in it. I have other intake manifolds laying around. So this one, for instance, is an M50 intake manifold, and the temperature sensor will go right where I'm pointing. There's a hole there. It's missing. I've had a few of these over the years, so the fact that I have like random sensors laying around is not surprising at all. With that, the correct sensor installed, and who knows if it's good, and the good coils, I'm hoping that when I get to try and fire this thing back up, it just starts. We'll find out. Well, it runs. It won't idle by itself, but it runs. So maybe the next thing to check is this ICV and see what's going on, because if I hold it by hand, it runs fine. Okay, I found the problem. This is a good intake air temperature sensor that goes to this engine. I found it when I was reading around for the ICVs, so the one I have in the intake right now is actually wrong. So check this out. I believe the ignition is on. As soon as I hit this, it fires right up and will idle.